It's funny you mentioned that goal-scoring record that Wilson's got against West Ham, and he might have been, dropping subtle hints with Eddie Howe about that. Did you do that? If you knew you had a good record against a certain team, were you constantly, nudging your man to say, don't forget?
Absolutely, yeah. You'd want the assistant manager to constantly be talking about it, because players do have a feeling about certain club strikers. They do. They just seem to have success against a certain opposition, and it's not even the same centre backs. It's just a strange anomaly that strikers seem to have. And I genuinely think that Eddie Howe will have looked at that, and that's a big reason why Callum Wilson is starting, because Isak's been outstanding in the last couple of games.
It's the one thing that Newcastle have been able to do quite carefully and methodically: improve the squad, improve the bench, so that the options that Eddie Howe has as the game gets into its latter stages are way beyond what Steve Bruce had. But then, in normal circumstances, Newcastle are much more of a front foot team than they were before.
I think a big credit to the recruitment side of it, because so many of the signings, especially when you compare it to West Ham signings, are Premier League ready. They've come straight in, they've adapted, they've worked, and even when you look at the bench, the likes of a Gordon, who's Premier League ready, that's so important, and West Ham signings just haven't worked yet. That's been a real frustration for the supporters.
So ready for the off here on Talksport 2. West Ham will get us underway. They're kicking from left to right as we look at the back of the main stand, so they're heading for the Trevor Brooking end to our right, and there's a delay in kick-off because there were Newcastle players stealing into an offside position, and again you're gonna have to take the kick-off a third time lucky, maybe. Good, they've got it right this time, and it's worked back all the way back from Lucas Paquetá to Declan Rice. West Ham in their claret and blue, Newcastle in the black and white stripes with the black shorts and the white socks. And
has it been a bad day for Craig Pawson?
I know, he's
that was
a bit officious, I think you might say.
Nicotine, wasn't it?
Got out of bed the wrong side.
Yeah.
So we are finally underway, and Newcastle come forward with Fabian Schär trying to float it out to Sam Maximan on the left-hand side, but Thilo Kehrer, who's been playing at right back after Ben Johnson had a bit of a nightmare against Brighton some weeks ago. Now Jared Bowen making a strong run into the area, pulls it across fast. It's touched off the post by Bruno Guimaraes against his own post. Declan Rice tries to drive from 30 yards out, and it sails over the bar. Bowen's crossed from the right. Guimaraes running back towards his own goal, stuck out a leg, poked it against the post, and West Ham couldn't follow it up, 0-0.
Oh, what a start from Jared Bowen, taking on Dan Burn right from the halfway line all the way down the right hand side. He's just got the edge in terms of pace, drives in towards the penalty area, great ball across. Very, very fortunate from Guimaraes not to put into his own net, but where was somebody else there just sniffing that chance? Paquetá should have been there just to tap that in, and then Declan Rice blazes over. What a start from West Ham.
Newcastle have had a life already. Minute gone on Talksport 2, 0-0. And it's sent downfield by Nick Pope, who just stood and watched as that Guimaraes touch smacked against the foot of his left-hand post and stayed out. Antonio now trying to barrel his way down the West Ham left, but Newcastle clear, but only up to halfway. Souček got a foot in. Paquetá works it back to the two centre-halves, Zuma and now Aguerd, who scored the winner against Southampton. Looked like he picked up an injury late on, Aguerd, against the Saints, but he's okay to start tonight, so the only change ended up being Antonio for Ings for West Ham United. Level on 27 points with Everton, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth below them in this extraordinary relegation tussle. Now Newcastle trying to get some meaningful possession in these early stages. Work the ball back to their two centre-halves. It's Fabian Schär pretty much at the centre of his own half. Plays the ball back to square for for Botman rather. Now Burn has it and will move up to the halfway line on this near touch line, with Newcastle attacking the Bobby Moore stand, given away by the visitors. And here's Saïd Benrahma darting through the centre circle, running all the way up to the edge of the area. What a run from Benrahma. Vital touch from Schär just to clear it outside the box. Antonio tries to send it into the area, and Trippier puts it behind for a West Ham corner. 3 minutes gone, 0-0.
Well, we've seen that from Ben Rama right from when he came into the English game with Brentford. He's great at dribbling with the ball, just that close control, nipping between a couple of players. Great little step over, well read though, and tackled in the end.
So it will be a corner kick to be taken on that left-hand side by Emerson. Right-footed, attempted cross is cleared away. Jacob Murphy takes an awkward touch but works it out to the right-hand side. Sam Maximan out on that far side, tries to drill it into the centre circle looking for Longstaff, but Newcastle have given play up. And here's Jared Bowen 30 yards out, tries a drive at goal, and it was always going wide, and Pope knew it, started to dive but then realised it was going to be a good yard or two wide of his left-hand post, and it's a Newcastle goal kick. 0-0 with 4 minutes gone on Talksport 2.
But they've started higher up, West Ham, a lot higher than I've seen in quite a few games this season, looking to try and pressure, and this is what they should be doing at home, no matter the opposition really. Of course, you know, the likes of Arsenal, Manchester City maybe not, but most of the other opposition, they should be pressurising at home early on in the game, and it's just got the crowd going, lifted the players. Jared Bowen as well, he's just playing in that sneaky position, not on Dan Burn, just inside to make Botman think, am I going to have to go out, or is Dan Burn going to have to come back into that position? I quite like that from Jared Bowen.
The ball has been in the Newcastle half of the field almost exclusively in this opening 4.5 minutes, but now Jacob Murphy has it inside the West Ham half of the field. 0-0 on Talksport 2. Bruno Guimaraes suddenly has Paquetá at his back, so he has to work it back to Trippier. Trippier looks to play a diagonal ball across to Sam Maximan, and Kehrer, I don't know whether he got a shout from Fabianski, but he elected, without being challenged, to head it behind for Newcastle's first corner of the game, away to our left, 0-0.
Yeah, and when you've got Kieran Trippier's delivery, you don't want to be giving any set plays away. I mean, the only thing is, you look at Shah, Botman, Byrne, all well over 6'2", yet there's only one goal between the three of them. They're not actually as dangerous as they really should be, Newcastle, from these set plays.
See what Trippier can conjure up from this corner kick. Down to our left on the near side, a right-footed in-swinger to come from the England right back. It's deep to the far post. Good flick away at the back by Emerson, but it drops in the right wing position for Sam Maximan. Quick feet as he gets into the area, whips a left-footed cross in, and it's headed home. And Callum Wilson is at it again against West Ham United. 11 goals in 13 appearances, and after an opening 5 minutes in where West Ham have had the ball almost exclusively in the Newcastle half, suddenly Newcastle win a corner. It's recycled. Sam Maximan's whipped centre, and with a header from close range, Callum Wilson did the rest. That's why he was recalled. West Ham 0, Newcastle 1.
And it just shows it would have been crazy, wouldn't it, to not have played him. That's what he does against West Ham. He scores whenever he plays. St. Maximan again. I mean, the skill on the guy is ridiculous. He just sends Ben Rama. He doesn't actually move the ball. It's just purely his body swerve. Just sends Ben Rama the wrong way. Clips a lovely little left foot cross right into the centre of that 6-yard line. Callum Wilson's all alone, and he thinks, thanks very much, I'll just nod this past Fabianski. What a great goal from Newcastle.
That was Callum Wilson's first touch of the night, and it puts Newcastle in front. And West Ham, well, that's not the stuffing out of that early pressure and that early territory that we were talking about, Dean Ashton, that West Ham had started with. And there we were talking about the height that West Ham haven't utilised at corners. They didn't really use it there, but there was no marking at all around Newcastle's number 9.
David Moyes, I mean, how much that hit would annoy him. Sort of second phase from a set play, and you've got your two centre-backs with the centre-forward right between the both of them.
Forward comes Declan Rice as West Ham try and respond. Out to the left-hand side, Ben Rama jinking to the byline. The cross is deflected and Pope has to push it away out to his left-hand side, and then down goes Kehrer, but no foul, says the assistant who was closest to it as Dan Burn tried to win possession back, and instead it's a throw-in to Newcastle United. So West Ham 0, Newcastle 1, 7 minutes gone on Talksport 2. 11 goals in 13 matches against West Ham for Callum Wilson, whether in a shirt of Bournemouth or now at Newcastle United. Horses for courses indeed. Back on halfway, it's back with Naif Aguerd out to the left-hand side, but Emerson, in keeping it in play, presents the ball straight to Trippier. In field it goes to Sean Longstaff. Trippier again finds Guimaraes, who looks to float it out to the right-hand side, and Murphy's got Joelinton making a run through the centre, but he's gone out left to Saint-Maximin, left-hand corner of the box. Now Joelinton pulls it across the face of goal. It's only half cleared. Comes back to Saint-Maximin. Another clipped centre headed away by Rice. Might drop 25 yards out for Trippier. Trippier works it back out to the Newcastle left, and Saint-Maximin once again up against Kehrer, goes on the outside of him, crosses to the far post and behind everybody in a black and white striped shirt, and Emerson clears up to halfway, and Antonio is beaten to it by Fabian Schär, and Longstaff works it out to Trippier on the right, but play stops because Antonio stayed down, presumably with a header injury. That's why Craig Pawson stopped it. But again, Newcastle United buzzing around the West Ham box. 9 gone, 1-0 to the Magpies.
Oh, Thilo Kehra's thinking, oh, please, somebody give me some support. He does not want to face Saint-Maximin 1v1, and rightly so. You can't. There's not many players that can cope with a player like Saint-Maximin. So you have to double up. So either Souček or Declan Rice has to come across, or Bowen or even Zuma then has to. You have to double up on him. He's such a threat. He goes past players with ease, and again, it was only the fact that he pulled it behind every single player that there wasn't another chance for Newcastle.
You're listening to West Ham 0, Newcastle 1 on Talksport 2 with Car Finance 24/7. Search Car Finance 24/7 today. Ian Danter and Dean Ashton with you at London Stadium with that orbital sculpture behind the Billy Bond stand with a helter-skelter on it. It's another helter-skelter season for West Ham United. And they're behind here. Given away on halfway. Bowen was looking for Antonio, but Byrne wins it back for Newcastle. He's striding down the left-hand side. Saint-Maximin to his left. He tried to play it in field, Byrne for Joelinton, but he couldn't control it. It's rolled back to Fabianski, and he clears right-footed first time. It sails over Antonio's head on the halfway line, and is controlled by Schär. Now Sven Botman plays the ball along the deck through the centre circle for the goal scorer, Wilson. Neat touch from Bruno Guimaraes to bring in Trippier. An early ball out to Jacob Murphy on the right wing. Now Bruno Guimaraes just lays it back off to Trippier. It was the first big signing brought in by Newcastle in the new era. Now Murphy has been penalised for a foul as he tried to scurry in field from the inside right position. West Ham have a free kick. West Ham, sorry, Dean. I was
just going to say, Trippier's been the best signing. He's been absolutely unbelievable. You know, second most chances created in the Premier League of any player. I think shows his quality.
West Ham hit the free kick downfield, trying to get Antonio in behind the two centre halves, but it skips off the wet surface and through to Nick Pope. But West Ham have got a decent record here at the London Stadium. They're unbeaten in 6 here, Dean.
They are, but this isn't a team you want to go behind against, is it, Newcastle? Because of that defensive record.
Yes.
And West Ham have not exactly been free-flowing, and they'll just want to frustrate now. They'll know, I'm sure Eddie Howe will have spoken about it, get this crowd moaning and groaning, and it makes it really then difficult for the West Ham players.
11 minutes gone on Talksport 2. West Ham United 0, Newcastle United 1. Callum Wilson with his first touch of the game, heading the ball home unmarked from close range, and Joelinton's through the middle. He's onside, he's taking it round the keeper. It's 2-0, and then the flag does go up. The Brazilian thought he'd doubled Newcastle's lead. He's got a rueful grin on his face as he runs back to take his position, but the flag went up on the far side after he'd rounded Fabianski. Let's have a look at the replay and see just how offside he was. Well, he's dipped his shoulder, he's offside. Do you think?
Oh, but what about Emerson in the left-back position?
Okay.
Is he playing him on? I mean, the way he was completely free, it felt as if he must have been 5 or 6 yards offside, but this is extremely close.
Well,
Emerson definitely looks like he's just dawdled and not got himself up and alongside the two centre-backs.
David Coote is the VAR tonight, back at Stockley Park. So he's got his ruler out and he's drawing the lines on the pitch to have a look and see whether Joe Linton is indeed just behind Emerson, who is clearly the deepest of the West Ham back four, but he's a good 40 yards away from where Joe Linton is, so it wasn't an obvious onside offside to spot when the ball was played. Lovely run from Joe Linton and a very cool finish. And Emerson has hands on hips, wondering whether he's the guilty party. And the line is drawn, and the line says he's onside. It's a goal. This is going to count for Newcastle United. The crowd don't know it yet, but the referee does the VA sign, points to the centre circle, and Joe Linton sinks to his knees, points both hands skyward because he knows that was a perfectly timed run. And Newcastle double their lead inside the opening quarter of an hour. Joe Linton played onside by Emerson, the West Ham left back. He rounded Fabianski with ease, slotted it home, and VAR confirms he was onside. It's Newcastle United in seventh heaven here, trying to consolidate their top four spot. It's West Ham 0, Newcastle 2.
I mean, it's awful defending. It really is. I know Thilo Kehra's got his one eye on St Maximin, but you've got to follow the run of Joe Linton. He just arcs his run inside Kehra and in behind Zuma, who just doesn't see him. And then Emerson, it's lazy. You've got to get yourself up with the centre-back. That's one of the simplest rules of playing in that full-back role. Joe Linton times the run. Cool finish, just taking it round Fabianski. And already, this is looking like just an easy night for Newcastle.
And so Joe Linton doubles the advantage, his third Premier League goal of the season. Scored at Leicester on Boxing Day. I think that was his last Premier League strike. Back in the side tonight and back amongst the goals.
He doesn't have the pressure anymore, does he, of scoring goals? His game's totally changed. When he gets it, it's a bonus.
Now Callum Wilson holds the ball up. Longstaff works it out to Murphy on the right wing. Trippier on the overlap is a decoy. It's played into Longstaff, who tries to square it across the face of goal. Turned behind by West Ham. Everything's coming up roses for Newcastle United at the moment. Now they've got a corner away to our left-hand side, and they lead 2-0 on Talksport 2.
Oh, and you can just hear a couple of groans from the West Ham support. They won't like it. They will not like watching this at the moment. Since that first goal for Newcastle, they've been excellent.
Trippier with the corner, right-footed outswinger, whipped into the near post. Joe Linton tried to get his head to it, flicked off the top of his head, and comes out to this near side, the right, and Kehra will knock it downfield, looking for Antonio. Strong header down though by Jacob Murphy. Now down the left-hand side, Bruno Guimaraes just halts his run for a moment, comes in field, lays it backwards to square to Sean Longstaff. Now Fabian Schär, whose through ball was perfectly weighted for Joe Linton to score that second goal. Here he is again, Schär on halfway, looks up, plays another ball along the deck, this time looking for Jacob Murphy. Hit against him by Aguerd. Aguerd going back to his own dead ball line, hits the ball against Murphy, and that's gone out of play for a goal kick to West Ham United. We've played 16 and a half minutes on Talksport 2 in the Premier League. West Ham United 0, Newcastle United 2. Dean Ashton.
And the problem is, when they lose confidence, these West Ham players, they get deeper and deeper, and it just is, it's a horrible look for a home side like West Ham to be tucked back into their own half with just Antonio all alone up front, and they're all defending behind the ball. It's a horrible look, isn't it?
Emerson down the left-hand side for West Ham, midway point of the Newcastle half, feeds it in to Ben Rama. It's played round the corner. They've tried to get Souček, who made a run through the centre of midfield, but it rolled through to Nick Pope, the Newcastle keeper, and he cleared first time, and then passed straight out of play by Lucas Paquetá, and it'll be a throw to Newcastle, midway point of their own half on the far side of the field. 2-0 Newcastle.
And this is about character for the West Ham players. You know, the crowd are going to be anxious, and the players are going to sense that, so it's time for big characters to stand up and go, well, I'm happy to deal with the pressure, give me the ball, let's play. It's the most difficult thing to do when you're lacking confidence and your support are anxious. Who are the players that are going to step forward?
Bruno Guimaraes hits a raking crossfield pass right to left to pick out Saint-Maximin. Joe Linton down the left-hand side of the area, leaves it for Dan Burn on the overlap, and it's turned behind by Thilo Kehrer for a corner kick to Newcastle United again at the Bobby Moore end of the ground. Some West Ham fans behind that goal convinced it came off the giant Newcastle left-back last of all. Referee disagrees, corner Newcastle.
I'd love to be able to give you a definitive answer, but that is probably quarter of a mile away from the position that we're in, and I can't.
Well, even the replay that we just saw on our monitor next to our commentary
scramble,
was pretty inconclusive. Anyway, corner it is. Trippier to take it again. This will be an in-swinger from the England fullback. Whips into the near post. Good strong header cleared by Rice, and it'll go out of play on this near side, controlled by Jason Tyndall, Eddie Howe's trusted assistant. And Newcastle will have a throw, and Dan Burns the man to take it. Every team's got a long throw specialist. I was watching Moussa Niakate for Nottingham Forest last night. From a standing start, launched long throws into the box. Normally, you've seen players take 4 or 5 pace run-ups. He does it, just bends his back. Amazing to watch.
Incredible, isn't it? No Dave Chandler though, is he?
Andy Legg I always think of as well. He could hurl, and of course Rory Delap, probably slightly more modern example, the Dilapidator that was used to such effect by Tony Pulis' Stoke City. Now West Ham have it back. They're 2-0 down. They need to get a foothold in this game once again. They did for the first 4 or 5 minutes before West Ham went behind. Rice lays it back to Emerson. Has to go back into his own half for Aguerd, who's being closed down by Wilson, who in turn goes to close down Fabianski as the ball goes back to the goalkeeper. Long ball downfield, dealt with by Botman, headed into the West Ham half, and then passed straight out of play by Kehrer. And again, that irritation.
That's actually booze. That's what that is. That's actually booze for the players.
That's more than irritation.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and it's tough. This crowd can be tough. They're amazing when things are going great, but they're tough and they're demanding, and you've got to be able to handle that pressure.
Dean Ashton alongside me, Ian Danta, former West Ham United striker. Newcastle 2-0 up and coming forward again into the West Ham half with Sean Longstaff. Nobody to his right. He's got to the right-hand corner of the area and not been challenged. Rolls it back 10 yards to Trippier. Trippier with a diagonal ball into the box, looking for Saint-Maximin. Kehrer heads clear. Bowen gets to the loose ball just in front of Burn. He was fouled by Burn, and that ends up being a free kick to West Ham in their own defensive third. 2-0 Newcastle.
Yep, learnt his lesson there, Burn. Didn't want to go for another long race with Bowen, so just body checked him brilliantly.
Just seeing a replay again of the first goal where Saint-Maximin just dropped his shoulder to get away from Emerson, and neither Zuma nor Aguerd were within 4 yards of Wilson as he headed home. Following that,
it's two terrible goals defensively from West Ham's point of view.
Flicked on by Antonio as West Ham try and come forward. Ben Rama had gone ahead of the flick on, just couldn't get there. Was unlucky for side Ben Rama. Hooked away by Newcastle. Rice keeps it in play over on the far side of the field. Plays the ball along the halfway line infield to Paquetá. Gives it back to Rice, and he spots Kehrer in space on this near side. Floats it across to him, and he gets a good strong header in ahead of Dan Burn, who was closing in on him. Now Lucas Paquetá rides the challenge of his compatriot Joe Linton, tries to fire it through to Antonio. Important stop from Fabian Schär. He was looking to release Saint-Maximin down the left-hand side, but he shanked his downfield ball horribly, just bounced once and through to Fabianski. 2-0 Newcastle. Yeah,
it was a good interception though, wasn't it, from Fabian Schär, because Paquetá, for once so far, he just got away from Joe Linton, tried to play an outside of the foot pass to Antonio, really well read by Fabian Schär.
Still 0-0 in the other Premier League game going on at the moment. That's live on Talksport. Don't forget, if you've got the Talksport app downloaded, so I'm sure you have, you can just move effortlessly between Talksport and Talksport 2. 0-0 between Manchester United and Brentford. Free kick from West Ham, sent down the left-hand side of the area. Antonio does brilliantly to keep it in play. Ben Rama out on that left-hand side, looks to get a cross into. Good cross to the far post, nodded down by Aguerd, but he just couldn't find a teammate. And in the end, Saint-Maximin and Burn between them get the ball clear. And Wilson's in a race over halfway, but Declan Rice, who's the last man back, very coolly and calmly takes it on his chest and fires it back to his keeper.
And he's quick as well, Declan Rice. He really does cover the ground well, and he read it well, with Wilson bearing down on him.
Joelinton, who scored Newcastle's second, in a bit of space on the halfway line, leaves it for Guimaraes in the centre circle. He'll just lay it off to Kieran Trippier. Trippier gets his head up, plays a short pass into the West Ham half for Longstaff. He'll give it back to Trippier.
I think what's underestimated is Guimaraes' coolness on the ball. You know, you just see it, they're just able just to lend it to him, into his feet under pressure. He doesn't panic, he can just lend it back, or he's got good awareness about him to flick it round the corner. I think he's such a vital player for this Newcastle side, and they really do miss him when he was injured and suspended.
Now forward comes Kehrer for West Ham United with a midway point of the first half. 2-0 Newcastle. Bowen on the right wing, level with the edge of the area. Comes back on his left foot, doesn't put a cross in, rolls it back in field first to Rice, and then Paquetá just helps it on its way around the corner. Aguerd strokes it out to the left-hand touchline where Ben Rama does well to keep it in play. Paquetá again looks for Emerson, trying to combine down the left-hand side with Ben Rama. Ben Rama spins brilliantly on the ball and keeps it in play. Back heels it as well for Emerson, neatly done. Now up to the edge of the area. Bowen touches it for Antonio with his back to goal at the edge of the box. Tried to work it to a teammate, only half cleared by Newcastle. Now Kehrer again, the right back, lobs a high ball into the Newcastle box. Very calm header down by Trippier to get it out of harm's way. And Murphy, steps brilliantly inside Emerson, just dropped the shoulder and gets up to the halfway line. He's gone for goal from the halfway line, but it's straight into Fabianski's arms. Didn't even get close to getting over Fabianski's head. 2-0 Newcastle.
Oh, what a volley. What is he doing? On the run, trying to strike it, slick surface. Doesn't get much tougher than that.
Free kick to West Ham. It's currently West Ham 0, Newcastle 2. For the latest odds, head to 888 Sport, the official betting partner of Talksport 2's Premier League coverage, where right now you can get West Ham to win from this point at 18-1. Newcastle for the win, well, that's 9-1 on. You can map the draw at 15-2. That's all thanks to 888 Sport. Made to challenge, made to debate, made to play. It's 18+. BeGambleAware.org. This free kick for West Ham is at the midway point of the Newcastle half, but it's out to the left of centre. And Emerson is the man standing over it. Newcastle holding their line at the edge of the D. Quite a way outside their 18-yard line. One or two West Ham players standing in an offside position, including Paquetá, who's standing more offside than Pippo Inzaghi used to be. In it comes from Emerson. Deep free kick to the far post. Pope comes to claim and claims very comfortably. 2-0 Newcastle.
Yeah, he'll do that. He's a giant of a man, isn't he, Pope? Anything in his vicinity comes and claims or punches. That's a real strong part of his game. And just the delivery needs to be better from Emerson.
Will clip downfield, but a poor touch from Botman. West Ham have it back. It's at the edge of the area. Bowen trying to twist and turn. In fact, there was a foul on Thomas Souček at the edge of the area. Now West Ham have got a great chance here. This is just to the right of the D and only about 20 yards out. A free kick opportunity beckons for the home side, who were 2-0 down with 26 minutes gone on Talksport 2.
Yeah, Guimaraes just from the wrong side, just tried to have a little nibble and got a bit of Souček's shirt, and I just think that was enough then for Craig Pawson to give that free kick, because Souček had just lost his balance and maybe he was going to lose the ball anyway.
Four players standing around the ball having a right old conference. Paquetá, Emerson, Ben Rama, Aguerd, all having a word about how this free kick should be dealt with. As Manchester United take the lead against Brentford, Marcus Rashford has given Manchester United the lead. That's over on Talksport right now with Sam Matterface and Mickey Gray. 1-0, Rashford at it again. 2-0 to Newcastle here. 27.5 gone, but a free kick in a very dangerous position. Favours a left footer here rather than a right footer.
Ben Rama, though, he can be cheeky from this sort of position. You think it's going to be that left footer, and he's capable of just bending it with that right foot around the wall.
Was a five-man Newcastle will back level with a penalty spot just to the left of it. It's going to be Lucas Paquetá. Good free kick and pushed wide by Nick Pope for a corner kick to West Ham United. That was on target. Pope got down low to his right, dealt with it, touched it behind. Corner kick.
I'd expect a goalkeeper to save that. His side, low, just diving to his right-hand side, but saw it late, so decent save.
Emerson's corner then on the left-hand side for West Ham United. Hits it deep to the far post, over the head of Kurt Zuma, who's gone at, drops at the edge of the area, swing and a miss by Benrahma. He was actually put off trying to strike it by his teammate Paquetá running across him. Now Benrahma has the ball down the left-hand side of the box, trying to engineer space for a cross, but he's being watched by Sean Longstaff. And in trying to play the ball in field, he's given it straight to San Maximan, who's got no support at the moment, and he's dispossessed as West Ham win it back. Rice striding purposely up to the edge of the area into Antonio, can't get the shot away. Great defending in the end by Sven Botman, I think, who got the vital touch. It's another corner to West Ham United, but a really strong run from Declan Rice for West Ham.
And why doesn't he do that more often? He should be doing that constantly. He should be released to be able to do that more. He's so good at it. Great little ball into Antonio. It's a scruffy touch, I have to say, but then what a challenge from Botman. Just from the wrong side, took a gamble and it paid off.
Different corner, right-footed in-swinger from Benrahma, but a comfortable claim again for Nick Pope at his far post, unchallenged. West Ham United 0, Newcastle United 2. We're approaching the half-hour mark here on Talksport 2. Good Friday, we've got so much EFL football for you on Friday. 3 games on Talksport 2 and 1 on Talksport. Millwall Luton at 12:30, Sheffield United Wigan at 3 and Sunderland Hull at 5:30. All live and exclusive to national radio on Talksport 2. And then in the evening, Burnley go to Middlesbrough, needing 5 points, I think, to secure promotion back to the Premier League. I'll be there hosting 8 o'clock kickoff on Talksport for Middlesbrough, who've got their own agenda, trying to sort out automatic promotion against Burnley. West Ham player Antonio goes down at the edge of the area. Nothing doing, says Craig Pawson, and Newcastle bring the ball away. They're 2-0 up, remember, the visitors, through those goals from Wilson and Jolinton, the 2 players brought in by Eddie Howe to the starting lineup tonight. And here's Jacob Murphy. All the ball runs across his body. Breaks for Wilson inside the box. Out comes Fabianski and smothers well and gets the ball out of harm's way. That wasn't meant for Callum Wilson, but Murphy couldn't control it. The ball went beyond him, slid through to Wilson. The angle was tight, but Fabianski dealt with it well.
Yeah, again, just got a touch, didn't he? To put it into the path of Wilson, who was alive to that situation. He always is. He's on the last shoulder of the defender. Fabianski learnt his lesson, didn't commit himself straight away, and read it perfectly.
Asteen Ashton, you can hear, former West Ham striker, alongside me, Ian Tanter, here at the London Stadium, where light drizzle has been falling all evening. Now Nick Pope has drawn the referee's attention because he sat down outside his own penalty area. And I'm not sure what the specific issue is, but the Newcastle physios are being asked to go on and treat Nick Pope. Martin Dubravka waits, of course, in the wings, who made 26 Premier League appearances last year for Newcastle, but of course has been demoted. Went on loan to Manchester United, of course. And
did he get his winner's medal in
the end?
He did,
yeah. I bet he brandished that round the changing room when he got back here to Newcastle, rather. That would have been a popular move, wouldn't it? Now Pope's just getting some treatment on, is it his right thigh or his right calf?
Yeah, his right thigh. You just think when he just shanked it out of play, whether he's just felt something.
And that allows both sets of outfield players to come to this near touch line and take on some fluids. Chance for David Moyes to have a word with some of his squad and try and arrest this 2-0 deficit that they suddenly have, West Ham United. We've got 13 minutes to half time. You're listening to West Ham 0, Newcastle 2 on Talksport 2 with Now Sports. Don't forget that with Now Sports You can stream all the Sky Sports action like this game, West Ham Newcastle, live right now for £11.99, no contract. Search Now Sports for all the deets. Pope's back on his feet. Had a bit of treatment. Seems like he's going to be okay to continue.
Well, it's not like when you used to sort of see defenders take the goal kicks because of goalkeepers being so involved in the play now. He would have to use that striking leg at some point.
So we're about to restart with a goal kick. Remember, the sports bar open to take your calls at the end of this commentary over on Talksport. Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. Jason will have plenty to say about that news that Frank Lampard set to be appointed as interim manager at Chelsea till the end of the season. We broke that news this morning on Talksport, and an agreement is in place. A few I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed, but Lampard back to Chelsea looks a goer. 2-0 to Newcastle here, and a foul on Thilo Kehrer in the right back position gives West Ham a chance to get the ball downfield. Kehrer, of course, a centre half, Dean Ashton, but because David Moyes appears to no longer trust Ben Johnson in that position, Kehrer's been doing that role for some time now.
Yeah, he has. Soufal as well finds himself on the bench this evening. I mean, he offers very little going forward, Kehrer, but I guess he's got that protection, albeit didn't do a lot to allow Joelinton just to run inside of him and score.
Bowen for West Ham United, 2-0 down, remember, the hosts. Out to the right hand side again, looking for Bowen, but Dan Burn sticks a telescopic left foot leg in there and whacks it downfield. I think he's 6'7", Dan Burn. They are land of the giants at the back, at least three of them for Newcastle. Trippier's not the tallest, but Cher, Botman and Burn. Sounds like a firm of solicitors, doesn't it? Go and see Cher, Botman and Burn, they'll save you a lot of money. 2-0 to Newcastle. Souček trying to burst forward for the hosts, but he's lost out, and away comes Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle. Plays the ball into the feet of Joelinton in the centre circle. Gave it back to Bruno Guimaraes. Bit of a hospital pass because it meant that Souček was right on top of Guimaraes, but he fouled his man. Free kick quickly taken by Newcastle. Longstaff just inside his own half. Murphy comes short and works the ball out to Trippier. Murphy's gone again down the right hand side for Newcastle. 3 to aim at with the cross. He goes deep to the far post on the near side. Saint-Maximin will keep it in play as it drifts out the area. Saint-Maximin flicks it infield for Joelinton. Joelinton at the left hand corner of the box, works it back 10 yards for Bruno Guimaraes. Now out to the right hand side for Trippier. Trippier almost showed a bit too much of that to Ben Rama, but still managed to flick the ball back 10 yards for Murphy. Now Bruno in the centre of the Newcastle half. Oh, lovely little pirouette. Works it down the right hand side of the area. Murphy with a first time cross, but it lands on the roof of the net, and it will be a West Ham goal kick with 9 minutes to half time on Talksport 2. West Ham United 0, Newcastle United 2.
Yeah, cries of Bruno from the right hand side. Them Newcastle fans appreciated that. Silky from the Brazilian. Lovely footwork. He just looks so calm on the ball with so much awareness.
It's the sort of thing I remember Dennis Bergkamp doing many a time when he was an Arsenal player.
These players, they make it look like they have just so much time and that the game's really slow to them.
Well, so did you, mate.
Almost as if, you know, they're the fly and the rest of the players are the SWAT.
Now there's an analogy you wouldn't have expected to hear tuning into Talksport 2 tonight. 2-0 Newcastle, they're coming forward again. Trippier in space down the right hand side, whips in a cross beyond everyone to the far post and out of play. Real pace on that cross. Fabianski stayed at home. Wilson tried his best to slide in, but a bit too much pace on that cross in the end, Dean Ashton.
Yeah, and I think as well it must have taken a slight deflection on the way through. It's been given as a Newcastle corner. He doesn't normally get it that wrong, does he?
That's right, came off the shoulder of Emerson. You're right, it is a Newcastle corner at the Bobby Moore end, away to our left hand side here at the London Stadium, and it's the Newcastle fans that are making most of the noise away to our right hand side. West Ham fans need something to latch onto, really. Here comes the corner from Trippier into the near post. Poor corner, volleyed away by Lucas Paquetá. But back on the halfway line, Murphy just lobs it up to the edge of the area. Zuma has good strength to hold off Wilson. Rice gets the ball up to halfway. Now Antonio tries to stretch his legs for West Ham. Trying to go on the outside of Longstaff. Good run from Antonio. Still going. Pulls it back. Bowen tried to get a shot in. Couldn't control it, nor could Benrahma. And Newcastle clear their lines.
He's just too good at that, isn't he, Antonio? When he gets you stood up in front of him and he just drives away. He's too strong, he's too quick. Really took on Longstaff. Good ball across. Bowen wasn't ready.
Now a good ball his feet out. Antonio to Kera, who picks the ball up by the corner flag on this near side. Bowen tries to win a corner, does. Very clever play from Jared Bowen. Knew that Burn was coming out to engage him. Just kicked it against Burn, and West Ham have their second corner of the game. But they're 2-0 down on Talksport 2.
Yeah, and they're not the threat they used to be from set plays, West Ham. They were one of the best, if not the best, in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago. It's really dropped off. Can they get this one right?
Going to be a left-footed in-swinger from Jared Bowen from this near side for West Ham United. Right under the crossbar, and it's headed in by Zuma. But the whistle's gone. Not sure whether the referee's going to allow it. Yes, he is. He's going to allow it. Kurt Zuma got his head to the ball at the far post. Nick Pope tried to punch it clear, but it was just over his outstretched right fist, and Zuma, flying into the far post, zoomed in to get West Ham back into this game with just over 5 to half time. It is West Ham 1, Newcastle 2.
And rightly so. Antonio doesn't do a lot. In fact, he hardly does anything. It's Pope that gets himself in a bit of a mix-up with Antonio. He should just be coming and claiming this. In the end, he's grasping at thin air, and Zuma gets away from his man. He's always got a fantastic leap on him. Just guides it down into the floor and up into the roof of the net. And what a time to score for West Ham.
Second goal of the season scored against Bournemouth in October, Kurt Zuma. And they've halved the deficit. There's a bit more noise around the London Stadium now. Bit more belief. 5 minutes to the break on Talksport 2. West Ham 1, Newcastle 2. And I wonder, well, it's easy to say this, but whether that slight thigh problem that Nick Pope had affected his ability to,
possibly,
to launch himself at that far post, and whether he wouldn't have got underneath it as much if he'd been fully fit. I don't know whether that's fair, Dean Ashton.
No, it's a valid point, absolutely. Possibly couldn't get off the floor like he wanted to, but I just think he was taking, too much of his attention was on Antonio, who didn't do anything in the end.
So West Ham back in the game. Bowen can't control the ball just ahead of the centre circle, and Joe Linton steals it off him. Zuma with a strong header on halfway to keep it away from Wilson. Ball breaks on this near side, the left, and Dan Burn keeps it in play, and it ricochets in field for Callum Wilson. No support at the moment up with him. Wilson challenged by Declan Rice, and Rice rides 2 challenges and brings the ball away. The Hammers fans loving it. Moves into the Newcastle half, finds Bowen. Bowen attacking the penalty area. Dan Burn gets a foot in. Fair challenge, says the referee. Now Newcastle have it back. Up to halfway. In slides Emerson, who fouls Murphy and gets a yellow card. The West Ham fans on that far side felt that was a fair challenge from Emerson Palmieri. Craig Pawson disagrees. Yellow card for the left back. Free kick to Newcastle, and David Moyes cannot believe that decision's been given. Wide-eyed stare as he comes to the edge of his technical area. West Ham 1, Newcastle 2.
Oh, very much a modern day yellow card that. Win the ball, but yes, you catch the man. I mean, it's a great challenge from Emerson. Of course he's going to catch Murphy on the way through, but he reads it, he intercepts it brilliantly, and he's very, very unfortunate that just nowadays that can be a yellow card. I think David Moyes is more annoyed at the fact Bowen didn't get the free kick when Dan Burn seemed to just push him, and then, to be fair to Burn, he did get a touch on the ball.
Still in the ear of the assistant, stood on the halfway line just to his left, David Moyes.
How much did the West Ham fans love that challenge from Rice, and then the drive away?
They were on their feet in front of us, weren't they? But it's a free kick to Newcastle, who still lead 2-1. Trippier sends it long downfield, drops at the edge of the area. Longstaff can't get it back into his control. Joe Linton tries to drive from fully 35 yards out and screws it well wide. And a quickly taken goal kick from Fabianski tries to get Bowen away, and Fabian Schär forced to head the ball out of play. And there's belief around the London Stadium now with 2 minutes to half time, even though West Ham are still behind.
Oh, they needed it. They really did need it, West Ham, because the game was just flat. Newcastle had done the job, and it was a perfect time to score.
Well, chatting to Mark Wilson at 888 Sport before the game, he said he thought it might be tight. 3 goals and we're not even at half time yet.
No, exactly. I think Eddie Howe he'll want to get his players in at half time, just reset again. They'd been very, very good up until that goal, Newcastle, in this half.
Free kick given to West Ham. It's taken quickly for Jarrod Bowen, right wing up against Byrne. Drives for the byline, pulls the ball back. Great cross, headed away by Trippier. Out to the edge of the box. Kept alive just for a moment by Paquetá. Newcastle get it half clear, but Kehrer tides it up. Sends it back to Zuma on halfway. Now again, it's a long straight ball downfield over the head of Antonio. Byrne can only head it out of play. Newcastle lost their discipline just at the moment.
David Moyes out of his technical area, almost staring at the ball boy, as if to say, this is your job.
Yeah, get it back to my players quicker, for goodness sake. Now here's Saeed Benrahma for West Ham. Down the left-hand side, if you're just tuning in, approaching half-time. West Ham 1, Newcastle 2. Newcastle were 2-0 up. Paquetá fouled by Joe Linton. And the West Ham fans want a yellow card for Joe Linton to correspond with the yellow card that Emerson got, but I don't think it's coming Joe Linton's way. It will merely be a free kick for the home side, and the boos around the stadium confirm that.
Well, it feels like a double whammy, really, because there's no yellow card and it's the same challenge, and also West Ham, if it have given the advantage, were on an attack.
Bowen, 25 yards out, gets the ball onto his left foot and screws the left-footed shot wide. And we're into 3 minimum minutes of added time at the end of the first half right now on Talksport 2.
That's the second time now Bowen's got himself in that great position centrally, with the Newcastle defenders just stepping away, and he's had the chance to strike and he's snatched at them both.
What was it you called it? The sneaky position?
Yes. Stealth mode.
But it is a goal kick in the end to Newcastle United. Taken by Nick Pope. Just keeping an eye on him when he takes those right-footed strikes downfield. Seems to be all right. Ball hooked over the head of Antonio, looking to get Bowen away down the left-hand side, but Byrne deals with it. Now Joe Linton shows great strength to keep the ball away from Paquetá. Now it's played out to Saint-Maximin as Newcastle counter. Only Wilson up with Saint-Maximin at the moment. He approaches the left-hand corner of the box. Ricochets back to him. Rolls it across to Murphy, right-hand corner of the area. Now there's plenty of Newcastle players forward. Trippier teases the ball to the far post. Touched back by Saint-Maximin, looking for a teammate. And it went in between all the Newcastle players in the box, and West Ham cleared it.
I mean, again, it's a great ball from Trippier. Why isn't Saint-Maximin just taking that on? Just volley that towards goal. It might ricochet into the goal. It might then be saved and parried. Got to give that a go.
Stoppage time at the London Stadium at the end of the first half on Talksport 2. Newcastle in possession, 2-1 up. Manchester United still leading Brentford by that Marcus Rashford goal to nil. That's live on Talksport right now, don't forget. Another exclusive commentary for you as we brought you this week 50 live games in April across the Talksport network from all sorts of competitions, including the Champions League that returns next midweek with Manchester City and Chelsea both in action. Now free kick as Joe Linton's brought down just inside the West Ham half of the field.
I think that's what's impressed me most about Newcastle, actually. You talk about their defensive display, the physicality. Actually on the ball they've been excellent, playing that through midfield, patient, quality. They've been very, very good in the middle of the park, Newcastle.
So the free kick will be Kieran Trippier's once again. It's only just to the right of the centre circle, 10 yards inside the West Ham half of the field. West Ham holding their line again at the edge of the D, trying to compress the play. And Trippier just rolls it down the right-hand side for Cher, across the face of goal, and nobody gambled in a black and white striped shirt, and it just trickles behind for a goal kick to West Ham United. Stoppage time, 2-1 to Newcastle.
Every right for Fabian Cher to say, well, hang on a minute, why isn't anyone getting on the end of that? Just fed it in behind the West Ham defence, nobody there.
Antonio tries another lung-busting run down the left-hand side, ends up conceding a throw after he lost possession and the ball was hit against him by Trippier, and the referee blows his whistle, and there's muted applause around the London Stadium, and that's because West Ham have got themselves just a ghost of a chance of getting back into this game. Newcastle, having been dominated by West Ham in the opening few minutes of this first half, suddenly West Ham found themselves 2-0 down. First, a corner kick wasn't cleared. Saint-Maximin teased the ball in from the right-hand side. Callum Wilson, unmarked, 6 yards out, scored his 11th goal in 13 appearances against West Ham United, and that was Newcastle 1-0 up. And then it was 2-0 when Fabian Cher played a ball across the halfway line, in behind the West Ham rear guard. Joe Linton split the defence, rounded the keeper and put it home. It was initially flagged for offside, but VAR showed that Emerson, the West Ham left-back, was playing Joe Linton onside. The goal stood 2-0 inside a quarter of an hour, and it was a very, very sombre atmosphere at the London Stadium. But Kurt Zouma, with a header from Jared Bowen's corner 5 minutes from half-time, has reduced the arrears by half. And so at the break, it is West Ham United 1, Newcastle United 2. Dean Ashton, your thoughts?
I mean, I thought Newcastle was so good once they'd taken the lead. They looked confident, they looked in control, and they'd also got this crowd on the back of the home side. But I talked about you needing characters then when it's really difficult and there isn't that atmosphere there. Who's going to crumble under pressure? Well, luckily, they've got players no more so than Declan Rice, than Antonio. Those players that are trusted, they dug in and they kept it going right till the end of that second half. And that set play goal, I think, was so important. You saw the change in the West Ham players. All of a sudden, there was that urgency that they were back in the game when it had gone very, very slow. And I think probably Eddie Howe will be pleased to get his team in at half-time, because they've still got the lead, they've still got a great defensive record, and really they should still win this game, but just that bit of help now for West Ham with that late goal.
Yeah, it got a bit scrappy for Newcastle, didn't it? Once they conceded that goal to Zouma, just not quite lost their heads, but just some of their positional sense seemed to desert them for a moment.
Yeah, and I just think that energy and that the closing down from West Ham, the lift that the goal gave them, all of a sudden they were a step quicker into the challenge, trying to intercept, lifting the crowd, feeding off that, and could easily have had another couple of chances with Antonio flashing one wide and Bowen having a shot from the edge of the box. So positivity a bit for West Ham, but still a lot to do.
All to play for in the second half. Full commentary to come here live on Talksport 2. In a few short moments you'll hear from Sarina Wiegman and Leah Williamson ahead of England's big game against Brazil, the Finalissima at Wembley tomorrow night. But tonight here on Talksport 2, we've reached the break at the London Stadium in East London, and the scoreline in the Premier League: West Ham United 1, Newcastle United 2.
Talksport 2, official broadcast partner of the Premier League and the EFL. Game day exclusive on Talksport 2 with Car Finance 24/7. We search a panel of lenders to find you the best deal. Search Car Finance 24/7 today.
Hello, my friend. Life comes at you fast, so make time for you time with Just Eat. For early times, lunch times, late times, strange times. The perfect times for the McDonald's Sausage and Egg McMuffin, Five Guys Cheeseburger and Strawberry Shake, Domino's Pepperoni Passion, plus more from Costa Coffee, Creams Cafe and Pizza Express. So order now, later, in a bit, whenever. We got it.
Did somebody say Just Eat?
Product subject to availability in restaurant and serving times. Participating stores only. See justeat.co.uk for details.
We've got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the train goes.
At a time when prices just seem to be going up, it's great to know that some prices aren't. In April, we're locking the price of quotes for 6 months. That's right, with a Selco quote lock, quoted prices in April will be held for 6 months. Find stacks of stock and great trade prices at Selco Builders Warehouse and online at selcobw.com. Exclusions apply.
We've got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the train goes.
Please see website for terms and conditions.
And he's barreled it straight through the midfield into the Village Hotel Pub and Grill fan zone, the home of big screen live football. A long volley over the stadium seats by the giant screens into the left-hand corner of the bar, past a winning lineup of ice-cold beers and a magnificent menu of mouth-watering footy food. Result! Enjoy the perfect big match experience with food, drink and live football at a Village Hotel Pub and Grill fan zone at 33 UK locations. Find your nearest venue and win monthly prizes, including match tickets at villagehotels.com/fanzone. Get in! Conditions apply. 18 plus. Always drink responsibly.
Rodri to De Bruyne, flicked onto Walker. Goal! No one saw that coming.
Or as we say in Japan, no warutaka wa tsume o kakusu. The smart hawk hides its talents. For a taste beyond expected, Asahi Super Dry, official beer partners of Manchester City. Enjoy responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk.
We all fantasize about our perfect home. Sipping a morning coffee out on the terrace. Good morning, Mr. Squirrel.
Morning.
The kids building a treehouse in the garden.
I'm living my perfect childhood.
But come on, this isn't real. Listen, if you're serious about making your fantasy a reality, find out what your home is worth instantly with a free online valuation estimate. Get real about moving. Get on the market. Most common time to obtain an online quote between 1st of June 2022 and 30th of September 2022 is under 3 minutes. Excludes Northern Ireland.
For all the top Premier League analysis, listen to The Game, the Premier Football podcast from The Times. Every Monday and Thursday, join Hugh Woozencroft and a host of big-name guests for in-depth reaction and opinion on the latest action and the biggest issues in the world of football.
It's a massive goal!
Hear previews of all the upcoming matches and provocative and compelling opinions from some of the finest football writers from The Times and The Sunday Times.
Lovely bit of football!
Listen to The Game on the free Times Radio app or wherever you find your podcasts.
Game day exclusive on Talksport 2 with a Now Sports membership. Stream the Premier League live without a contract from $11.99. Search Now Sports 18 plus. Stream via internet. Terms apply.
Talksport 2, official broadcast partner of the English Football League.
Idolised by generations.
Oh, it's got in!
Friday afternoon.
Live Championship football
on Talksport 2.
How about that?
Sheffield United versus Wigan.
Coverage from 2:30. Kick-off 3 p.m.
on Talksport 2.
And here they come. What a magnificent sight. Yes, it's live British horse racing on the radio, and Talksport 2 have got it covered. Tomorrow afternoon from 1, Talksport 2 will bring you full coverage and live race commentary of all the action. Direct from Hereford. Saddle up for live British horse racing on the radio. Download the Talksport app and swipe left, or ask your smart speaker to play Talksport 2 to follow all the action. Tomorrow afternoon from 1 on Talksport 2.
Game day. Pushing the apex of live football.
Right foot shot, brilliant goal!
The biggest and best football on the radio.
Game day exclusive
on Talksport 2.
Quick feet as he gets into the area. Whips a left-footed cross in, and it's headed home. And Callum Wilson is at it again against West Ham United. 11 goals in 13 appearances. St Maximin's whipped centre, and with a header from close range, Callum Wilson did the rest. That's why he was recalled. And Joe Linton's through the middle. He's onside. He's taking it round the keeper. It's 2-0, and then the flag does go up. Let's have a look at the replay and see just how offside he was. The referee does the VAR sign, points to the centre circle, and Joe Linton sinks to his knees, and VAR confirms he was onside. Newcastle United in 7th heaven here, trying to consolidate their top 4 spot right under the crossbar, and it's headed in by Zuma. Kurt Zuma got his head to the ball at the far post. Nick Pope tried to punch it clear, and Zuma, flying into the far post, zoomed in to get West Ham back into this game with just over 5 to half time. That is the scoreline here at London Stadium. Ian Danter and Dean Ashton with you on Talksport 2. West Ham United 1, Newcastle United 2. Full second half commentary to come. Don't forget, there's another game in progress live on the network over on Talksport. They've reached half-time at Old Trafford. Manchester United 1, Brentford 0. The only goal of that half coming from Marcus Rashford for United. Just to let you know, in the Copa del Rey semi-final second leg, Barcelona against Real Madrid, it's 1-0 to Madrid on the night through Vinicius. That makes it 1-1 on aggregate in that semi-final. Now tomorrow, England's Lionesses are in action. It's the inaugural Finalissima against Brazil at Wembley Stadium. Updates of that game on Talksport tomorrow evening, and Serena Wiegmann, the coach, believes this is a terrific test for her side ahead of the World Cup in the summer.
Yeah, well, we're getting closer to the World Cup, of course, so you want to get closer to your squad, but it's still 3.5 months to go. So still lots of things can happen. There are going to be played so many games internationally, but also at club. And I think this moment, with playing, of course, Brazil, but also playing Australia, gives us a new measure moment. And we expect to be challenged more in defense too than we were at the other Club Cup. We expected that a little bit more. But we absolutely expect that that will be challenged in defense. So that gives us, again, more information about our team and about where players are at this moment to move forward in our preparation for the World Cup.
And it was very interesting hearing Tim Vickery, our South American correspondent, chatting with Charlie Baker and Adeola Dipo on Talksport this afternoon, saying that as far as this game is concerned, England are hot favourites against Brazil, and you would not have said that 10 or 15 years ago in the women's game. But that's the power and that's the brilliance that Serena Wiegmann has brought to this Lionesses squad. And the Lionesses captain, Leah Williamson, also says her side are fully focused on facing Brazil tomorrow and not about the World Cup yet.
I think when there's a tournament on the horizon, all players have it in the back of your mind because every day you're competing for a place on the plane. But I think, tomorrow is big enough that's at the back of our minds. Going into tomorrow.
So that's England against Brazil in the women's finalissima tomorrow night at 7:45 at Wembley Stadium. Faye Carruthers and the former Spurs manager Rahan Skinner will be bringing you updates regularly from that game into kickoff on Talksport. Good Friday, we've got a feast of EFL action for you on Good Friday across the Talksport network. 4 live commentaries in all from the Championship, and our coverage gets underway here on Talksport 2 at lunchtime. A huge playoff clash between Millwall and Luton Town at 12:30 at the Den. Talksport's Ian Abrahams caught up with Millwall's informed striker Tom Bradshaw this week, and Tom's been thrilled with not only the team's position in the table, but also his personal performance this season.
It's been a great season so far. Like I say, when I look back on the season, I think that historically we've had slower starts. I think this season we came out the blocks a little bit quicker than we have done the last couple of years, which set us up really to sort of push on later in the season, which we tend to always do. So, like I say, for me personally, I think it took a little while to get off the mark. Obviously, I think the first game of the season, I had a goal ruled off for offside, and then I had another one ruled off for offside. So then it took me a little while to get going, but once I got going, like I say, I've just felt great personally. Really confident in front of goal, and I think that's the thing that any striker wants is sort of consistent confidence and confidence in yourself and from your teammates. And like I say, for me personally, it's been a great season, and hopefully we can finish it off as a team.
Tom Bradshaw of Millwall, and Millwall kick off our 4 commentaries from the Championship on Good Friday. That's 12:30 at the Den. Dan Windle will be your host, Joe Shannon and David Connolly on commentary for that one. At 1 o'clock on Talk Sport, because it's a full programme pretty much in the EFL on Good Friday. Adrian Durham will host Game Day Live. Matt Holland and Trevor Sinclair alongside Adrian. All the goals as they go in from the EFL and the National League as well. But more commentaries to come. At 3 o'clock on Talksport 2, we'll be off to Bramall Lane. Sheffield United against Wigan. So top and bottom of the table in focus there. Adam Bridge and the former Leeds boss Neil Redfern will bring you commentary on that. Straight after that on Talksport 2, we'll take you to the Stadium of Light. Sunderland against Hull in the Championship. Mark Wilson and Mickey Gray will be your commentary team there. And then just to round things off, flick it over to Talk Sport. An 8 o'clock kickoff. Middlesbrough against Burnley, the champions-elect. I'll be there at the Riverside hosting. Nigel Adderley and Chris Iwelumo will be your commentary team. And then we get into game day on Saturday. 12:30, Manchester United against Everton. Our exclusive from the Premier League on Talksport with Reshmin Chowdhury, Sam Matterface and Stuart Pearce. And I'll be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium alongside Perry Groves for a game that has an awful lot of meaning when it comes to top 4, particularly the way Brighton are playing at the moment, because it is Spurs against Brighton at 3 o'clock. That's an exclusive to Talksport 2. And there's a full programme of Championship commentaries on Easter Monday as well. If you want to know what's coming up, the best thing to do, if you've got the Talksport app downloaded for your smartphone, there's a live games tab that's very handy at the bottom of that home screen of the app, and you can just see exactly what games we've got coming up, because we've got loads of games on Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday night next week the Champions League returns, quarter-finals, 3 Italian sides in there, and of course 2 sides from the Premier League in Manchester City and Chelsea. But back here at the London Stadium, the West Ham players emerging from the tunnel, the bubble machines working overtime once again. Did they have the bubble machines at Upton Park when you played there, Dean Ashton?
Absolutely.
A lot of the bubbles just seem to settle right next to the machine. They don't seem to go high into the sky like the song says.
Yeah, nothing like a throat full of those as you steam out of the tunnel.
Newcastle are out as well. No sign of any changes. I'm just looking to see if Nick Pope's out there. Yeah, he is. He's just sorting out his towel behind the goal away to our left. And Newcastle will get us underway at the start of this second half. 2-1 to the Magpies, remember, as things have changed around. Newcastle will now be attacking the Trevor Brooking stand to our right, where the Newcastle fans are there in great numbers. And we're back underway. I'll run you through the lineups in just a moment. But West Ham in their claret and blue, Newcastle in the black and white stripes, and a very calm header back by Naif Aguerd to his keeper Fabianski. And Fabianski, the West Ham keeper, has a back four of Kehrer. Oh, given away by Aguerd, and it's going to be 3-1. What a dreadful error at the back by Naif Aguerd, and it was presented on a plate by Jacob Murphy to Callum Wilson, who could not miss from 3 yards out. David Moyes puts his hands on his knees. What a giveaway for West Ham at the start of this second half. Newcastle restore their 2-goal cushion, and it is a gift. It is West Ham 1, Newcastle 3. Aguerd with the error, punished by Newcastle and Callum Wilson.
It's a catastrophic error from Aguerd. I mean, at the start of the second half, you want to get off to a good start. He just completely miscontrols it. It comes to him, he goes to put his foot on the ball, it squirms under his foot, and Murphy's just there. He's alive to the situation, but he doesn't have to do a lot. He then just taps it across the 6-yard line for Wilson just to tap in, and David Moyes' reaction said everything. He couldn't believe his centre-back had done such a mistake.
0-0, Naif Aguerd scored the winner here against Southampton on Sunday, and now has gift-wrapped a 3rd goal for Newcastle United. And West Ham have to do it all again. And all those words in the half-time dressing room took less than a minute to unravel, Dean Ashton.
Well, I thought the defending for the first 2 goals was bad enough. But then when you do that, I mean, what can you do if you're David Moyes? That's nothing he can do about that. That is just a simple error from Aguerd. It's just lack of concentration.
Well, I was about to run through the West Ham lineup because I thought at least I could run through the lineup whilst the ball's back with the West Ham defenders, not thinking that Naif Aguerd would make such a Horlicks of it. But anyway, Fabianski the keeper, Kehrer, Zuma, Aguerd and Emerson the back four, Souček, Rice, Bowen, Paquetá, Benrahma and Antonio. And now for Newcastle, Pope the keeper, and then Trippier, Cher, Botman, Byrne at the back, Longstaff, Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Murphy, Saint-Maximin, and now Callum Wilson on a hat-trick, and he's just increased his goal tally against Newcastle. It is now 12 in 13 appearances against the Hammers. Meanwhile, Botman's gone down clutching his left ankle after a challenge. Emerson holds his arms out looking all innocent. Remember, he's on a yellow card.
Yeah, I think that's what the Newcastle players are saying to Craig Pawson. He obviously didn't feel as if it was... I don't know whether he's given the free kick or he's just stopped the play for the injury, but Emerson just followed his run. I think he did get some of the ball though, Emerson, which I think will probably just play in his favour.
Well, in fairness to Emerson, I think he only had eyes for the ball. I don't think he wasn't looking to make a reckless challenge on Sven Botman. Thankfully, Botman's back on his feet, and Newcastle have been given a free kick. Taken short by Fabian Schär to Sean Longstaff. Touched out to this near touchline for Kieran Trippier. Guimaraes fires it down the Newcastle right. It's only half cleared by West Ham, and then rolled out of play by Emerson, who's not having a good night. Well, that's two of the West Ham back four that's not having a good night. Zuma scored. Kehrer playing, you could say, out of position. Emerson allowed Joe Linton to be onside to score the second, and then Aguerd with that horrible moment for him.
I mean, it's just incredible. You know, you go in at half-time, I'm sure David Moyes would have talked off the back of that real sort of confidence-boosting goal and the performance to the end of the first half, and upbeat about this second half, and then that happens within pretty much seconds of the restart, and just flattens everything.
Joe Linton taken down on the halfway line, but Craig Pawson says play on, and then he does actually bring play back for the foul. Real Madrid have got a second, incidentally, in that Copa del Rey semi at Barcelona. Karim Benzema, so 2-1 to Real Madrid in that semi-final. So even though Barcelona are way ahead in La Liga, Carlo Ancelotti's men are in front in that two-legged semi. 3-1 up, Newcastle here, and coming forward with Trippier. Rolls the ball into Wilson, tries to lay it off for Murphy. Paquetá got a good foot in to win it back for West Ham United. Now Antonio again making a strong charge down the left-hand side. He's got the better for the moment of Fabian Schär. Now holding up Antonio, and then putting in a terrific challenge, going to ground Fabian Schär at just the right moment to dispossess Antonio and win the ball back for Newcastle. And then he's got the cheek to just play the ball around Antonio for Trippier. He rolls it back to Nick Pope, and his clearance is nodded in field by Longstaff. But then Newcastle do present the ball back to West Ham just inside their own half. 3-1 to Newcastle with 5 minutes gone in the second half on Talksport 2. Here's Dean Ashton.
They've got to find that energy again, West Ham, because Newcastle will be happy. They'll sit in. They're so defensively organised. They'll be really hard to break down. So you've got to find the energy and the urgency that they found at the end of that first half from somewhere.
Jared Bowen trying to take the ball in his stride, but it's fired into him by Souček. Can't do so, and away come Newcastle United, and it's Saint-Maximin down the inside left channel, just being held up for the moment by Kehrer. Tried to roll it in field. Paquetá is fouled by Joe Linton, and Paquetá is rolling around inside his own half of the field. Wonder whether that might influence the referee, and indeed it is a yellow card for Joe Linton for that heavy challenge on Paquetá.
Yeah, and I think probably that first half challenge as well is in the referee's mind.
Yeah, totting up procedure and all that.
He definitely does catch him. It's only a fraction late, but definitely catches him on the shin, Joe Linton.
So a free kick as Paquetá gets to his feet. At least he does for a moment, and then puts his palm straight down on the ground again. Didn't have any treatment from any of the physios, so he will just move gingerly towards the halfway line. I'm not allowed to say that anymore, actually, gingerly. Perry Grove says that's an insult.
Yeah.
I'm back with Perry on Saturday at Tottenham. I just have to get that out of my vocabulary. He doesn't like it when I say somebody gets up gingerly.
Yeah, my son would have something to say with a big mane of ginger hair.
I'm taking it out of the lexicon right now. It's gone. I won't say it ever again. West Ham 1, Newcastle 3 on Talksport 2. An exclusive commentary from the Premier League, and it is Newcastle, as it stands, consolidating their third place in the Premier League. This first of 3 away tests in a row in the league for Eddie Howe and co. Brentford and Aston Villa to come after this game tonight, and they're passing this particular test at the moment with flying colours. And in terms of that goal, we can talk about Aguerd's mistake, but credit Jacob Murphy for not giving him a moment's rest and taking it off him. Now here's Joe Linton Out to the left-hand side, and Sam Maximan approaching the edge of the area. Right-footed cross swung to the far post. Wilson was the target. Might drop for Murphy. He let the ball drop, and that allowed the ball to be cleared by Aguerd. Up to Antonio. Goes to ground. He was fouled. Free kick to West Ham United. The score is West Ham 1, Newcastle 3 on Talksport 2 with Now Sports. Don't forget that with Now Sports you can stream all the Sky Sports action like this game, West Ham against Newcastle, live right now for £11.99. Just search Now Sports for all the details. Dean Ashton's alongside me tonight.
Just going back to that point you made about Murphy being alert to it and closing down, that is a big feature of Eddie Howe's management here at Newcastle. You know, they're 5th for possession won in the final third. I mean, that is just worlds away from the way that Steve Bruce played. You know, getting up the pitch, pressing the opposition, forcing them into mistakes. So he can take a bit of credit for that also.
And of course, Jacob Murphy playing largely because Miguel Almiron is unavailable at the moment for Newcastle, who are in possession in their own defensive third. Bit tight for Kieran Trippier, but he fires it downfield to Wilson, lays it off superbly to Longstaff, who hits a first-time ball right to left, seeking out Sam Maximan. Touched it down for Joe Linton. Back heel for Sam Maximan. Now Murphy, great save, Fabianski. Joe Linton can't follow it up. It's out for a corner. Fabianski keeps the score down after a brilliant counter-attack from Newcastle. Murphy has his hands on top of his head. He can't believe he's not made it 4-1 Newcastle.
Fabianski's gladly just ruined probably one of the goals of the season in terms of team play. What a magnificent counter-attack. Big raking ball out to St Maximan, a touch into Joelinton. Cruyff flick back to St Maximan, touch to Murphy, and then what a save from Fabianski. He said, I don't care, this is my job to ruin the spectacle. And how well he did.
But they've still got a corner to defend, West Ham. Trippier to take it over on the far side. Right-footed in-swinger into the near post, over the head of Rice. Drops for Sam Maximin on the volley. Driven goalwards, it's headed clear on its way to goal. I think it was Kehrer that got it away. And Newcastle have won the ball back on the halfway line and send it all the way back to Pope. And that was a little bit of panic stations again in the West Ham box, as Sam Maximin just tried his luck from the right-hand corner of the box. And now Wilson tries his luck from 50 yards out, but it's caught on the goal line by Fabianski.
Well, I mean, that's twice now, actually, a Newcastle player has tried that. I don't know whether it's something they've spoken about, Fabianski's positioning, but you're right, from that set play again, it's that second phase where they haven't picked up the Newcastle players who are looking to get in and nod that one in. So important, that second phase. You don't switch off and you look to pick up a man.
West Ham 1, Newcastle 3 on Talksport 2. Here's Jared Bowen down the right-hand side of the box. Declan Rice tries to keep the ball in play. Had the ball gone out, it had. West Ham fans away on that far side don't agree with the assistant's decision, but as far as he's concerned, it had just gone over the dead ball line. So Newcastle, 3-1 up, have themselves a goal kick away to our left-hand side. 11 gone in the second half.
I mean, that could be one way that you change things. Do you say Souček, you bring him off, you then put on a Downs, for example, and then say to Declan Rice, it's your job now, you've got to drive this second half for us, and just give him a bit more freedom to just go and intercept, to drive with the ball forwards, to make that extra player that's going to be a threat, because Souček isn't doing that, and he hasn't done that all season.
Pope clears the ball downfield with the goal kick, flicked on by Wilson, looking to get Murphy away, but it's dealt with at the back by Emerson, who might be in the last chance saloon, do you think, Dean Aston, in terms of if he makes another injudicious challenge? I wonder whether that's in David Moyes' mind. There are substitutes for both West Ham and Newcastle warming up down beneath us to our left. I wonder how tempting it is for David Moyes to make that change now as we approach the hour mark. Newcastle have that 2-goal cushion back, but Jared Bowen for West Ham up against Dan Burn on the far side of the field, tries to go on the outside of Burn. He's got the beating of him. Good cross into the area. Trippier though gets the header clear on the 6-yard line, and Newcastle bring the ball away.
That's about 4 times now Bowen has beaten Burn, put a cross in, and Trippier's just headed it away uncontested. Got to get in front of a fullback. You've got to get in front of a centre-back. It's just not good enough when you're trying to chase the game.
Newcastle have possession again, and they've worked it out to Trippier, who chops inside Declan Rice for a moment, neatly done, and then floats the ball out wonderfully to Saint-Maximin, approaching the area, left-hand side. Saint-Maximin goes for goal, right-footed, and Fabianski turns it round the post for a corner kick. Saint-Maximin going close this time to extending Newcastle's lead. Corner to the Magpies, they lead 3-1.
Yeah, it was brilliant from Kieran Trippier. So calm on the ball, and then a brilliant ball out to Saint-Maximin. And in the end, I think he needs to do this more, Saint-Maximin. He's got to make his mind up, do it quickly, and either have the shot or play someone else in. It takes a slight deflection. Fabianski stretches with that left hand and fingertip away and round the post. It's a brilliant save in the end.
It is a great save. Trippier receives a short corner, whips it into the near post from this near side, the right. It's cleared away, and here comes Ben Rama trying to launch a counter-attack for West Ham. Slips it into Rice, who's piling forward. Tried to float the ball across to Antonio, but it got nicked off the foot of Sven Botman and just bobbles through conveniently for Newcastle goalkeeper Nick Pope.
Why didn't he just carry on? Really test Botman and say, I think I've got the beating of you. Stride away from him instead of trying to play that pass. That was an opportunity.
Heavy touch from Dan Burn as Newcastle tried to bring the ball away, so West Ham have it on the right-hand side. Kehrer. Bowen's gone into the area. Goes in field beyond Kehrer, and it's won back by Wilson. Now Murphy looks for Wilson again, just up to the halfway line. Holds up play. Emerson can't get there. He's caught his man. Longstaff as he comes forward. And Craig Pawson is just going to award the free kick, and maybe Emerson's just going to get a little ticking off here. But he has got to be so careful at this point, the West Ham left back. 3-1 to Newcastle on Talksport. We've played an hour at the London Stadium.
He's a lucky boy, isn't he, Emerson? If you're a Newcastle player, you're saying, well, how many opportunities is he going to get, considering he's on a yellow card? That was almost a counter-attacking situation. Made 2 challenges, in fact, Emerson.
Newcastle take the free kick. Soufal's going to be a triple change, actually, for West Ham in a minute. I can see Soufal, Cornet, Downs ready to come on, I think. Triple change on the way.
I think it's a quad.
Is it a quad? There's 4 of them. I've always said if Barry Fry was still in management, he'd make all 5 changes all at the same time if he was still coaching in football. I've seen it done once. I saw Ole Gunnar Solskjaer do it as Manchester United manager when I think they'd already won a game, and I think it was more of a gesture than anything else tactically. But yet a quadruple substitution on the way for West Ham United when the ball next goes out of play. 61 minutes gone.
I hope you're ready, because there's a triple change for Newcastle as well.
Oh, God, blimey. Pen's going to run out. Centre of the West Ham half, Bruno Guimaraes slides it into Longstaff at the edge of the area. On the overlap is Murphy across the face of goal. It deflects up in the air off Aguirre. It's rolled back to Guimaraes. Oh, good foot in Declan Rice to stop the shot being sent goalwards. But Newcastle still have it. Back it goes to the halfway line, and Byrne has just run the ball out of play. And that should mean the changes are going to be made. So coming on for West Ham, Soufal, Cornet, Ings and Downs. But the changes first are going to be made by Newcastle. And Wilson can't get his hat-trick. He's been taken off, and I think it's Alexander Isak that's coming on for him. That's the first change. So Isak for Wilson. Souček for Downs. So Flynn Downs, once of Ipswich and Swansea, he's coming on. Jacob Murphy, he's coming off, and coming on in his place I think it's Joe Willock. So Willock on for Murphy. 7 substitutes all at once. Thanks a lot.
I'll just leave this to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. And Matt Targett's ready to come on as well. My producer Declan's very kindly does that. Soufal on for Kera, Downs for Souček, Cornet for Ben Rama. I think Ben Rama can feel a little unfortunate to be coming off. Don't know what you think there. And Ings for Antonio. So he's not playing two up here. And Anthony Gordon, meantime, has come on for Alan Saint-Maximin. Former Everton man is on in place of Saint-Maximin, who again has had a pretty good game for the visitors. So 7 changes in all. And here come West Ham on the burst down the right-hand side. Early cross into the box, looking for Ings. Stumped away by Newcastle, and Fabianski comes way out of his goal to clear the ball downfield, looking for Cornet on the left-hand side, who's going to give Kieran Trippier something more to think about down that West Ham left and Newcastle right. More bright break for Bowen. Whistle's gone for a foul. West Ham locals don't like it. It's a free kick.
No, and it was something Ten Hag brought up, wasn't it, about Newcastle draining the time down, taking their time, fouls, free kicks, set plays, throw-ins, anything is just slowed down. Why not? You would try that. That's certainly part of the game.
I think they call it housery these days, don't they?
Yes, they do, yeah.
So a free kick to Newcastle United. 25 minutes to go on Talksport 2 in this exclusive Premier League commentary. Newcastle 3-1 up at West Ham. And Newcastle in possession down the left-hand side. Isak receives it, just clips it back to Byrne. And further back to the two centre-halves, Botman and Scher. Third goal for Real Madrid against Barcelona. They're going to go through to the Copa del Rey final. Benzema with a second of the night. Still 1-0, incidentally, on Talksport between Manchester United and Brentford. Still that Marcus Rashford goal separating the sides. And West Ham slide the ball out of play, but it is a throw to Newcastle United. Now it's a question, I guess, Dean Ashton, of which team settles the quickest, having made all these changes, 7 between them.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think so much of this, if West Ham are to get back into it, it's going to be the energy, it's going to be the urgency. It's what we saw at the end of that first half that just unsettled Newcastle. If not, they'll be happy and comfortable in their defensive shape.
Ings drives the ball downfield, asking Bowen to give chase, but Byrne gets there first at the edge of his own area, rolls it back to his keeper. Pope clears downfield. It'll come back to Dan Byrne. He plays it infield to Botman. Guimaraes looks down the left-hand side for Willock, who's on in this second half as one of those 3 Newcastle changes. Looks like Target's playing on the right-hand side to help out Joe Linton. Now here, down the left-hand side comes Paquetá, dispossessed. And away come Newcastle. Alexander Isak driving at Kurt Zuma, trying to go on the outside of him towards the edge of the area. Soufal comes to close him down as well. Rolls it back in field to Longstaff. Guimaraes sees Trippier moving up on the right-hand side. Little dummy turn around the corner, almost broke for Longstaff. Gordon can't win the ball back. I called him Target for a minute, didn't I, Gordon? I do apologise. It is Anthony Gordon, definitely. The fair hair that got me. Throw into West Ham United. Now, Sean Longstaff's just gone down, just doing his bootlaces, and the referee, Craig Pawson, points at his watch as if to say, I know what's going on. I'm on top of this. I will add this on.
He's too old to have his laces done for him. Get on with the game. He's up. Why is he up? Why was he down?
We're back to that housery word again, aren't we? Throw into West Ham. Just over 20 minutes to go, so we're into the last quarter of this Premier League fixture. West Ham desperate to get the next goal and get it quickly to try and set up a grandstand finish. Now Maxwell Cornet got Share for company, but he's wriggled past him down this near side of the left. Good early cross just beyond Bowen. Keeper stayed at home. One back on the right hand side of the area, and West Ham have a corner. Soufal just stuck a right foot against it, and it is a corner to West Ham at the Bobby Moore end. 1-3.
Lovely bit of footwork from Maxwell Cornet. Decent delivery in as well, just tempted Pope to come and get it and then retreat, and then Soufal did well to win the corner.
So a left-footed delivery to come. Jared Bowen's out there, I think, to strike this corner in. Ings standing right next to the keeper. In it comes, headed up in the air by Longstaff, headed down into the air. Oh, it almost broke for a West Ham player. Flynn Downs headed it into the danger area. Only half cleared by Newcastle. Bowen getting after the loose ball. He's got the better of Willock, but then Newcastle managed to win the ball back. Ball's played in field. Neat football. Gordon inside his own half, out to the left hand side, and Isak. Guimaraes was making the run downfield, but it's gone out of play. It will be a throw to Newcastle eventually, but the referee's just having a word with Sven Botman before the throw-in can be taken.
But you'd rather see that, I think, if you're a West Ham supporter. You'd rather see that energy and maybe give the odd free kick away, because you're trying to win it back quickly and keep that pressure on, than you would just allowing Newcastle to play out comfortably.
That's Dean Ashton, you can hear alongside me, Ian Danter. So with 20 minutes to go, currently West Ham 1, Newcastle 3. For the latest odds, head to 888 Sport, the official betting partner for Talksport 2's Premier League coverage. We're right now West Ham to win, 80-1. Newcastle to win, that's 50-1 on. And the draw is 18-1. That's all thanks to 888 Sport. Made to challenge, made to debate, made to play. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org is the website you need. Emerson goes down under a challenge from Trippier. He says he dived to the referee Craig Pawson, but the referee doesn't agree with Kieran Trippier, so West Ham have a free kick midway point of the Newcastle half, out to the left of centre. Soufal is calling for it on the right hand side. He's in space, but they're not going to use him. They're compressing their play, and they have a chance to swing this free kick into the edge of the Newcastle box, Dean Ashton.
Yeah, they've got to make these count, haven't they? If they want to get back into it, it's that goal. If they can get the goal, it does change the mindset so quickly.
Emerson standing over it. Newcastle holding their line just outside the 18-yard box. Plenty of movement around that far side. Real cluster of players further back from this free kick. Emerson sends it in, decent delivery, headed up in the air by a Newcastle player, kept alive, might drop at the edge of the area. It's swung goalwards by Ings, deflects out to the left hand side of the box. Paquetá keeps it alive. He's got support from Cornet on this near side, works it back to Rice. Diagonal ball to the far post, looking for Zuma, and it's been given as a corner, flicked off a Newcastle head. Corner kick for West Ham United away to our far side.
Yeah,
3-1 Newcastle.
Good battle that, wasn't it? Zuma and Byrne both tussling for the ball there, and it just skimmed off the back of Byrne's shoulder.
Bowen again with the corner. This produced a goal in the first half. In it comes from Bowen. Pope's nowhere, and he's got into a crowd of players, and the ball just drifts behind. I think the referee's given a free kick anyway. Zuma can't believe it's been given as a free kick. Pope came flying out and didn't seem to get anywhere near the ball.
No, and I just wonder, is that for Pope, or is it for Zuma getting on top of, I think it was Fabian Schär, and I think it was in the end. It wasn't anything to do with Pope, but you're right. Pope was just, again, bundling into the area, getting himself in a spot of bother, and then Zuma maybe just puts his arms on the top of the shoulders of Schär.
So a free kick to Newcastle United, who have 17 minutes or so to protect this 3-1 lead that they have in London. And London's become a much happier hunting ground for Newcastle United in recent times. I seem to remember when Bobby Robson was manager of Newcastle, they could barely win a corner in London, never mind win 3 points. That has definitely changed in recent times. More on that in a moment. Here's Declan Rice for West Ham, trying to pile forward. Ball ricochets away from him, and instead Newcastle look for Willock. upon halfway, but tidied up by Soufal, who sends it back to his keeper Fabianski. Right-footed clearance down to the halfway line. The giant Dan Burn wins the header. Willock looks to float it in field. Anthony Gordon trying to get onto it, right-hand side of the penalty area. Holds the ball up, Longstaff in support. Gives it back to Gordon, right-hand side. Plays it back, poked goalwards by Willock. Might come to Willock again. He's got time to measure what he wants to do. Roll back to the edge of the box. Driven goalwards and just wide. Bruno Guimaraes with a right-footed effort in the end, and it was only just wide of Fabianski's right-hand post as he flew across. Goal kick West Ham. West Ham 1, Newcastle 3.
Well, finally someone took control, because there was nothing really there. Joelinton didn't take it. Willock, in the end, Bruno Guimaraes just took it out of his feet and then whipped it towards the near post. Probably a yard wide, but there's got to be that urgency when you get around the box just to then make your mind up what you're going to do.
The one thing Newcastle like doing is coming to West Ham. They've won here 10 times previously in the Premier League era, either here or at Upton Park, and their best record is against Tottenham, where they've won 11 away. So they're about to equal that tonight with the scoreline they have here. Joelinton looks to release Dan Burn down the left-hand side. He's taking Bowen with him. Goes inside him, Dan Burn. Tried to square it across, but the ball snaked away from him, and he's claimed by Fabianski on his 6-yard line. Gets it downfield immediately, trying to find Ings, who spins on halfway, but the ball's long since got away from him, and he's back with Pope. 3-1 Newcastle.
I mean, brilliant defensive work from Bowen to follow that run from Dan Burn and make a challenge in the end. And then Fabianski's got to recognise who he's got on the pitch now. There's no point in whacking that forwards early to Danny Ings. He isn't going to win that with Botman and Cher. Antonio, yes. Ings, no. You've got to build it up and get the ball in around the box for Danny Ings.
Guimaraes for Isak. Calmly rolls it back to halfway. The score, West Ham 1, Newcastle 3 on Talksport 2 with Car Finance 24/7. Search Car Finance 24/7 today. Remember, tomorrow night here on Talksport 2, bit of Super League for you. Mark Wilson will be in the chair. Castleford against Wakefield Trinity at the Jungle. 7:45, and then remember, there's 4 live commentaries from the Championship across our network on Good Friday. Millwall Luton, Sheffield United Wigan and Sunderland Hull back to back on Talksport 2 from 12:30, and then Middlesbrough against Burnley on Talksport tomorrow, Friday night at 8 at the Riverside. West Ham in possession on the halfway line with Emerson. Plays it backwards of square to Zuma. Soufal gives it back to West Ham's goal scorer tonight. Square ball for Aguerd. Looking for an option up ahead of him, just plays it short. And it's worked out to the left-hand side and Cornet. Now Aguerd looks to send the ball from left to right, seeking out Bowen. But it's got to be a good long pass to get over the head of Dan Burn. But West Ham have won it back. Downs finds Bowen, right-hand corner of the box. Again, looking to take on Burn. Gets to the byline, tries to play it into the near post, and it took a touch off Burn. It is another West Ham corner at the Bobby Moore end. West Ham 1, Newcastle 3.
He's got the beating of him, Jared Bowen. Time and time again, he's got past Dan Burn. Just need to do it more, and then get bodies in the box for when that cross eventually does make it in.
So Bowen again with this left-footed in-swinger for West Ham United. The last few quarters have caused a bit of consternation at the back for Newcastle. Out comes Pope, punches it clear this time. Headed back into the box for West Ham to try and get a shot away. Rice, 25 yards out, works it out to the left-hand side and Cornet. Back for Rice once more. Works it infield to Soufal. Soufal plays it short. Lovely turn by Downs. Flicks it out to Bowen. Space on the right wing to attack. Checks inside his man. Was he brought down? He was. Free kick just outside the area down the right-hand side of the box as Jared Bowen was brought down by Willock. 3-1 Newcastle.
Yeah, he's been just so good. Jared Bowen, when he gets in those positions 1v1, he's so direct. Makes his mind up early. He thought he'd overran it and then just flicked it the other side of Willock, and it was a foul. It was outside the box, and these are difficult positions, I always think, when it's really close to the penalty area and wide. What do? Do you just try and float it in, or do you try and, I think, create something where you can pass it into somebody for a strike.
Well, Cornet's lurking at the edge of the area, unmarked if he gets rolled back to him. Newcastle have got a bunch of players in the 6-yard box protecting the attempted whipped ball in from that right-hand side, because Bowen is standing over it. It may well be him that ends up having the shot. It is Bowen to whip it in left-footed. Goes for the far post, and it's just over the head of Zuma and around past the angle of post and bar. And Newcastle have a goal kick, and they're 11 minutes away from 3 more points on the road. West Ham 1, Newcastle 3.
I hate this type of free kick. I hate it. I mean, just it so rarely comes off, that one where you try and, flash it across and into that far corner. Are you really shooting, or are you trying to get a glance on it? In the end, it just comes to nothing from Jarrod Bowen. I think that's a poor choice.
And that missed free kick opportunity signals quite a few people to head for the exits. Certainly in the stand we're sat in. Plenty are heading back to Westfield, I imagine, to pour this result over. Newcastle fans aren't going anywhere. Away to our right in the Trevor Brooking stand end. They lead by 3-1, and they have a throw out on the far side, midway point of the West Ham half.
Yeah, there's a few bare chests in that Newcastle end.
No great surprise there. But it is April. I mean,
True.
It's when it happens in December that you think, what on earth are they playing at?
Yeah. But rightly so, they're enjoying this performance. It's been a very, very good away performance. They've taken their opportunities that have been gifted, and then they've just been really, really solid. So organised defensively.
Long ball downfield for West Ham, trying to launch a counter-attack. But it's flicked on by Joe Linton down the left-hand side. It gets away from Joe Willock. Ahead again, just at the edge of his own penalty area. Took a more secure touch that time to keep it away from Guimaraes. Now Paquetá, lovely through ball, almost found Maxwell Cornet, but sliding in a leg was Kieran Trippier. Brilliant interception.
And that's maybe a lesson for the West Ham fullbacks from that earlier goal from Joe Linton. You follow the run, you cut the angle, and you make the interception. It's outstanding defending from Kieran Trippier.
Guimaraes looks long downfield for Isak, who's trying to split the two centre half. Oh, Fabianski's come out of his goal. He's presented it straight back to Isak, and he's lobbed it in from 25 yards out. Another awful error at the back from West Ham. Fabianski the guilty party this time. He came out to help out and bail out his centre halves, but he got it all horribly wrong and just presented it to Alexander Isak, who just coolly, calmly lobbed it over the stranded keeper into the empty net. And Newcastle are heading back up the M1 with 3 more points and consolidating their Champions League spot, but plunging West Ham back into relegation worry. West Ham 1, Newcastle United 4.
I mean, Fabianski's just opened the gates and the West Ham fans are streaming through them. It's a terrible mistake, just to add to a catalogue of mistakes from West Ham this evening. He comes out brilliantly, as you would expect from a goalkeeper, but you either come out and you head that away low, or you just get it with your foot. You don't come out and let it hit your stomach. Falls to Isak, who thinks thanks very much, just coolly lobs it over the top of the defender and into the back of the net. That has definitely summed up West Ham's performance.
Cue a mass exodus from 3/4 of this bowl at the London Stadium, but the Newcastle fans making their voices clearly heard. 7 minutes to go on Talksport 2, and no doubt that the points are now safe for Eddie Howe and Newcastle United, and West Ham will just have to lick their wounds, hoping for back-to-back home wins. That was the plan at the start of the night, but here they are, 4-1 down, and Newcastle coming forward again. Joe Linton's been set away down the left-hand side of the box by Isak. Joe Linton across the face of goal, but it's too far ahead of Gordon. He couldn't slide that home. Joe Linton might have been tempted to go for goal himself, but the angle was tightening all the time. He ended up trying to set up a teammate, and it goes behind for a goal kick. West Ham 1, Newcastle 4.
It's because he's too nice, isn't he, Joe Linton? I don't think he has got that greedy, ruthless streak that strikers have. He's always trying to look to set someone up there rather than just take it himself and strike with the left foot. Brilliant move, good footwork from Isak to set Newcastle away.
Long ball downfield, but West Ham can't get a piece of it. And Newcastle have it back. Gordon on halfway. Plays it into Longstaff. Little 1-2 with Guimaraes. It's going to be busy on the Pudding Mill Lane platform in a couple of minutes' time, I fancy. Because there's lots of empty seats facing me and Dean Ashton all around this stadium. Zuma tries to clears it against Joe Linton, kept in play on the far side by Willock. Rolled back down the touchline. Willock's chasing after his own flick and forces Paquetá to put it out of play for a Newcastle throw. And now the Newcastle fans are allaying every completed pass that Newcastle achieve here, and they're about to make a change. And Dan Burn is coming off, and Matt Targett is definitely coming on. So a left back for a left back. And Dan Burn, who's been given a bit of an examination by Jared Bowen this evening, Dean Ashton.
He has. I mean, that's always going to be the case when he's coming up against, you know, quick, tricky wingers. But in the main, he's done very, very well throughout the season. Dan Burn. Matt Targett isn't going for that right wing role and tucks in at left back.
5 minutes to go on Talksport 2. West Ham 1, Newcastle 4. Dean Ashton and Ian Danter with you. Still 1-0 to Manchester United in the other Premier League game. That's live on Talksport at the moment. Marcus Rashford's goal still separates them and Brentford at Old Trafford. But this win for Newcastle, I mentioned, does consolidate their top 3 spot. You can hear the completed passes being olayed, but then a little boo you can hear as they give the ball away to West Ham, but then they win it back almost as quickly. Cher then fires it straight at Jared Bowen. Bowen trying to go on the outside of Cher, but he gets a foot in, and it actually came off Bowen last of all, just to frustrate West Ham's winger that bit more. Goal kick to Newcastle. So as it stands, Newcastle and Manchester United, who are both winning tonight, move on to 53 points. So Spurs dropped out of the top 4. Brighton are just beneath them. Brighton travel to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday. That's live on Talksport 2. And another change. Javier Manquillo is going to come on for these last few minutes. And Kieran Trippier is getting a rest, albeit just for 4 or 5 minutes. But again, another really, really solid performance from the England right back.
Yeah, excellent again. But we're just, as you're talking about those positions in the Premier League, it's those extra games that they've got, Newcastle, one of them being this game, that I think are going to be so important, just to put that gap between themselves and Tottenham.
Yeah, still got a game in hand on Tottenham. So have Manchester United. So both Newcastle and Manchester United on 53 points. Tottenham on 50, having played a game more. And Brighton have got a game in hand on both Newcastle and Manchester United, and 2 on Spurs, and they're on 46. Hopefully you can join me and Perry Groves for that commentary Saturday afternoon on Talksport 2 at 3 o'clock. Spurs against Brighton. West Ham next up there at Fulham. They've got 2 games against Ghent in the Europa Conference League. Sandwiched in between those, their next home game here is against Arsenal.
Ouch. But it's that time of the season where, when you're down there, you've got to find, you know, victories that aren't expected. You know, that is how you get out of these situations when you're down there. And it's not nice. This will sting, of course it will. But then you've got to try and put it aside, move on very, very quickly, and look to the next game.
Here's Danny Ings trying to reduce the arrears. West Ham coming forward. Ings out to the right-hand corner of the box. Has to come back in field and then dispossessed Flynn Downs. And forward comes Isak down the left-hand side of the penalty area. Willock and Guimaraes and Gordon are in there. Isak can't get past Soufal, who put in a very important challenge, but it breaks back out to the left-hand side, and Newcastle still have it. Joe Willock, 30 yards out, plays it across to Anthony Gordon. Gordon has a go for goal, ambitious from the right-hand corner of the penalty area. It's blocked away by Emerson, and Gordon will have it back. A reminder that this result will keep West Ham on 27 points, but having conceded 4 goals and only scored 1, their goal difference has now moved into double figures. That was the one thing that was kind of handy for West Ham, having a single figure goal difference, but they're now minus 12, admittedly still an awful lot better than Everton's minus 18, Forest's minus 28 or Bournemouth's minus 30, but they've just got to be careful when it comes to their goal difference, that it doesn't end up being worth a point to somebody else in the final reckoning. Into the last minute of normal time on Talksport 2. It is West Ham 1, Newcastle 4. Paquetá trying to come forward, but it's won back again by Newcastle, and Guimaraes looks for Joe Linton, and Joe Linton brings it forward. Zuma trying to narrow the angle. Joe Linton into the area. 5-1. Fantastic finish from Joe Linton. He was greedy that time, all right. Passed up an opportunity a couple of minutes before, but he's fired it past Fabianski. 5-star performance from Newcastle. David Moyes looks bereft on the touchline. West Ham have been sunk, and how. They cannot follow up the win against Southampton. They've been taken apart by Newcastle here, and they stay joint third bottom of the Premier League. 27 points with 4 teams on that total, including West Ham, and their goal difference has worsened. But Newcastle march on. It's Newcastle 5-1 up now.
Well, I said that it would sting, this result. You just wonder how deep the cut could be, though, for West Ham. 5-1 in a game that was so important as well. But Joe Linton, I think he looked up, he saw that there was absolutely no support and thought, I'll do it myself. And he just goes as if he's going to go onto his right foot, shifts it onto his left, does enough just to manoeuvre Zuma out of the way, and then as he strikes, it just dips as it gets to Fabianski, and that's what just takes it over his hand. He gets a tiny bit of a touch, but finds the far corner.
I'll remind you that the Sports Bar will be taking your calls on Talksport after 10 o'clock tonight. Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy, 03717 2233 44. You'll hear reaction from the managers both here at the London Stadium and at Old Trafford. You'll hear from David Moyes and Eddie Howe live with Ian Abrahams during the course of the Sports Bar. But if you're a West Ham fan just getting back in your car around the London Stadium here, you can vent your spleen to Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. A 5-1 defeat to Newcastle United, and we're into 4 minutes of minimum stoppage time. Manchester United still 1-0 up on Brentford, hanging on to that Marcus Rashford strike in the first half to keep pace with Newcastle and knock Spurs out of the top 4. Remember, these 2 results combined mean that Spurs find themselves 5th all of a sudden, having dropped points live on Talksport at Everton on Monday night. Newcastle playing out time here. Gordon inside his own half, plays it in field to Longstaff. Now Guimaraes in the centre circle, looks for Joe Linton again, but got his lines wrong that time. And Downs has it back, trying to drift away from Willock. And this is a sickener for West Ham United.
Yeah, it is. You've got to take it on the chin. Like I said, you know, when you're in a relegation battle, you've got to move on quick. You cannot let a result fester. As bad as it is, as hard as it hurts, you've got to try and move on. It's not been a good result, that's for sure. There's been parts of the game that have been okay, but to concede 5 to a team that aren't exactly free scoring, but have found that scoring touch since the Carabao Cup final, Newcastle, it's going to hurt.
After 6 home games without defeat, this is not the way they wanted that run to come to such an inglorious end, West Ham United. They've got a throw down by the corner flag, but we're dealing in seconds here at the London Stadium. It's almost all over, and there's not many West Ham fans left inside the stadium to witness the final whistle, but I know what's going to happen with those West Ham fans who are still in here when the final whistle goes, and it will not be pleasant listening for David Moyes.
I think that's why they've stayed. It's probably the only reason.
Ball brought forward by Fabian Schär. Looks for Anthony Gordon. Just shy of the halfway line. Plays the ball in field to Isak, who scored the 4th goal that we thought might be the final one. But they're 5-1 up. And now Joe Linton has it on the left-hand side. Manchester United have beaten Brentford. That's a full-time score. There's the full-time whistle, and there's the boos at the London Stadium. They can try and play the music to drown out the boos, but it's not going to work. David Moyes goes onto the pitch, and he's got to try and get his players up as quickly as possible after a hammer blow for the Hammers. They have been thrashed 5-1 at home by Newcastle United, who consolidate their place in the Champions League positions with their 4th straight win. They got off to the perfect start with goals early on. Callum Wilson with a header when they'd started quite well, West Ham, but presented Newcastle with the lead on 6 minutes. Joe Linton then made it 2-0 just before the quarter-hour mark, onside from a through ball. Zuma got a header back 5 minutes before half-time, but then Newcastle were presented with the gift of the night. Wilson got his second after Naif Aguerd gave the ball away at the edge of his own penalty area to Murphy, who rolled it across for Wilson to put it into an empty net. And then another gift, Fabianski this time, coming out of his area to try and clear his lines, got it all wrong and just presented the ball to Alexander Isak, the substitute, who lobbed the ball in. Joe Linton got a 5th late on, and David Moyes is just walking towards the tunnel, and that's why you can hear the extra boos for the under pressure West Ham manager. No points here tonight. They stay on 27 with 3 other clubs in that relegation scrap, but the Newcastle players go to their supporters and take the acclaim. 3 points heading back up to the northeast. 5 goals and a 5-star performance. It's finished. West Ham United 1, Newcastle United 5. Dean Ashton.
Well, the way David Moyes walked off to a chorus of boos, I think says a lot about how this West Ham support feel about him. And although there was some positivity in certain parts of the game, it was individual errors. It's very difficult as a manager to stop individual errors from your side, and that comes down to nervousness and lack of confidence and pressure when you're down there. Now the home record's been good in 2023, but that was a shocker in the end. But let's take nothing away from Newcastle. I thought they were ruthless. I thought their attitude once again was first class. They pressurised when they needed to pressurise. They sat back, were defensive when they needed to. An excellent performance that'll do them the world of good in terms of the scoring of the goals, which they've struggled with a little bit since the restart. And they're right in the hunt, aren't they, for that top 4 spot? And what an achievement that would be. West Ham have got to get over this very, very quickly. Some big games for them now, from now until the end of the season, and that's David Moyes' job.
Newcastle players just standing in front of the travelling support in the Trevor Brooking stand to our right, just applauding them. It's a bit of a mutual appreciation society at the moment. Jason Tindall and Eddie Howe, of course, are out there. All the unused substitutes just applauding the Geordie faithful who've travelled south, and it will be a very pleasant journey back up to Tyneside for the Toon Army. A 5-1 win against West Ham United, so they move on to 53 points, 3 points clear of Tottenham, who've now dropped down to 5th with Manchester United's win tonight. So the Champions League dynamic takes another twist this evening as Spurs do pay the penalty for dropping points at Everton on Monday night. But it is all about Newcastle, and a scintillating performance here, aided and abetted by some dreadful moments in the West Ham defence. It is now time for us to pick our man of the match with Car Finance 24/7.
Man of the match on Talksport 2 with Car Finance 24/7. Get your finance sorted first, then choose your car. Search Car Finance 24/7 today.
Well, Dean Ashton, this is your job. Pick us a man of the match, please.
Well, it's going to be one of the players that were brought in from Eddie Howe. Not the player that just always scores against West Ham, but Joe Linton. I thought, as always, he gives that incredible amount of effort, that defensive intelligence, but he should be adding goals to his game. He should be a real threat in every game that he plays, because from the position that he's in, he should be getting into the box. And I thought he took both of his goals extremely well. 2 great finishes from Joe Linton, much needed as well to share the goals around for Newcastle. And again, epitomises what Eddie Howe has done to this football club, to bring in players that are willing to run through brick walls for him. And Joe Linton once again has done that and hasn't left anything on the field.
There you go, that was our man of the match from today's game. Joe Linton's been selected by Dean Ashton with our friends at Car Finance 24/7. Search Car Finance 24/7 today.
Man of the match on Talksport 2 with Car Finance 24/7. We search a panel of lenders to find you the best deal. Search Car Finance 24/7 today.
So a reminder that Manchester United have beaten Brentford by 1-0 at Old Trafford in the Talksport commentary. Get yourself over to Talksport if you want to react to tonight's action on the Sports Bar with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. 03717 223344. They will take your calls for as long as you make them to the show. 03717 223344, and you will also hear live in the Sports Bar from the managers here at the London Stadium.